Hey, Footy fans, welcome to the Point of Difference Rugby League podcast. I'm your host, Dave, and today we've got a superstar guest going back in the day with a Kiwi and Knights legend who just loves smashing Australians for fun on the footy field. It's the one and only Sam Stewart. How you going, mate?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Hi, Dave. Yeah, going great. Yeah, here on the Gold Coast, and yeah, looking forward to this chat.
Yeah, man. So I hear you rate yourself a bit on the surfboard. What's it like living over at the Goldie?
Well, no, I don't. I don't rate myself. And if you spoke to my kids, yeah, I know that they don't think I could surf either. No, I came here for a holiday. Finished up in England, went back to Newcastle to sell up, and came up for a holiday before going back to New Zealand. And so that was in '97. In fact, actually, first I came back from England, and the Knights were in the grand final against Manly. He was that guy, that Kiwi guy. I forget his name. He was playing fullback. He wasn't much of a player, but Daryl. That's right, Daryl Williams. And I led the team out at the
Oh,
grand
wow.
final, and it was virtually back then. It was Manly versus the rest of the world. So obviously there was Newcastle's first grand final. Paul Harrigan was captain, and they had this bloke called Andrew Johns
Yeah, he
who
does all right.
pulled one out. Yeah. He pulled one out of his mercurial backside and went down the blind side, and they sort of end up winning the game. So
Oh, Darren
anyway,
Albert.
after that, we scored that try. Wow, yeah, well, what a moment! And it was a very popular moment for rugby league.
Yeah.
Seeing Manly lose, but it was a hell of a game. Yeah, and then we sold up and came up to the Gold Coast for a week or two just to have a look around, and before heading back to New Zealand, I was heading back into the police force in Wellington. But we never made it. It's 25 years later, and we're still here. So
Awesome.
to be honest, there's worse places to be.
Yeah, we're coming over for a holiday in a few months, so I cannot wait. I've been to Gold Coast a couple of times, and it's just amazing. I can't believe you live there. It's not fair. It's a great place.
There's a lot of Kiwis here, a lot of Kiwis, a lot of ex players.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've
running amok.
noticed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, awesome, man. So, what have you been up to post footy? What are you doing for with yourself in your spare time?
Oh well, we're mainly I've absolutely bored here, to be honest. So pretty much in the retired framework now. I help out. So we got 15 grandkids, six
Wow.
kids. Yeah, so we try and spread our love around, and we help out with the grandkids, and they're spread around a fair bit. Um, I do a bit of part-time work for a local company a couple of days a week. My wife works across the road at a local school a couple of days a week,
Yep.
and otherwise we're out and about. Certainly not idle. We've just finished a lap of Australia in our caravan,
Oh, wow.
um, and which was a one massive adventure. 30,000 k in 11 months, and
Wow. Oh, good.
yeah, and I did a bomb of every cliff, waterfall, jetty, bridge, wharf. That was my. There's a great little ad on New Zealand called you have to watch it, called Bombs and Ice Cream, and it's
Right.
and it's only a 3 minute skit on YouTube, and
Yep.
that's what I based my holiday on. Bombs. I was going to do a bomb everywhere, and I was going to reward myself with an ice cream, and I ate way too much ice cream.
Still, you start to take up the old jogging, mate.
Yeah, no, my
Okay,
jogging
so
days are over.
fair enough, fair enough. You did plenty in your day. You did plenty. So let's go all the way back to the beginning, mate. Where did you grow up, and what was life like for a young Sam Stewart?
Oh, I grew up in Wellington. Mum and dad are both from the sort of the Waikato area, and they sort of wanted to pull away from the family and make their own start. So they went to Wellington, and dad was a builder. Um, we had there were they had sorry. six kids. So I was number one, two, three, four. Yeah, that's right. I'm number four out of those six. Dad did a really good job building, and he was building sort of blocks of units and everything was going really well. He was also a very good singer, so he did a fair bit of singing in and around the traps. Anyways, stuff goes wrong, and he ended up on the wrong side of the law, and
Okay.
he went away for a bit of a holiday, and it was hard times back then. It was hard times for Mum because there was no social welfare and there was no housing. So things went from up here to down there. But I don't remember ever not wanting for food. It might have just been porridge, porridge every day. But it seemed like a really good. It seemed like a really good way to grow up. We had a lot of love, a lot of friends, and I suppose sport. We moved away around a few times, and I ended up going. We living in the Hutt Valley, and a place called Avalon. I went to the local school there called Avalon Primary, where there weren't too many brown faces back then. So this is in the late 60s, and I met a fella called, I think it was the first guy I met at school, called Andre Whitaker. And now he was another brown face.
I know Andre Whitaker.
Yeah, so Andre's doing a great job in Wellington. I think he's promoting the game up there and running the game at the moment. And his brother just got selected for the New Zealand side. So he played rugby league, which I'd never heard of before. Anyway, I went along with Andre and another friend, and we went along to play rugby league at about I think it might be under 11s, and really enjoyed the game. It was at its very basic form, and played a couple of years of playing junior grades, and would have to get a train and a couple of buses. There was no local club, and then when by the time you get to play rugby at school, first 15, obviously first 15 and rugby union was the be all and end all. And every kid wants to play first 15 for his high school. Everything back then. I think the first 15 got accredited. The UE. You only had to play footy, and because the school could accredit a certain amount of people, and I'm sure that the whole first 15. Everyone in the sixth form got accredited, so you didn't have to sit the exams. Similar to like American system, I suppose. But you generally got invited to all the parties. You generally got all the girls. You're the king of the school. So, but the problem was that there was a thing against rugby league, and you couldn't play rugby league. So if you were going to play first 15 for the school. So I ended up playing rugby league because I love the game, and I snuck in a few games but under a different name. I played under my mate's name.
Oh, true.
And
that's awesome.
It was rugby union on the Saturdays and then rugby league on the Sundays. And I went on to so I made the junior Kiwis. I think it was under 17s back then, under my mate's name. And when I made the junior Kiwis and we toured Australia, and there was the team. I said, "Oh look, you've got my name wrong somewhere here on the photos. It's not this name. It's this name." So I left school, and the following year made the junior Kiwis, and I haven't played rugby union since, pretty much. Yeah, that's so awesome. It was and I have a big family. Dad went on and remarried, and there's about 13 of us now. And he started a big marae in Wellington, Tapitaranga Marae, and it's doing wonderful things for the community. And a lot of the whānau out there are still working there, and we get together often just to talk about it. And we just had a family reunion there last Christmas, so it was all my kids and muckles. We went back over there, and he's introduced them to a bit of Maori tanga and a bit of
Yeah.
hangi and everything else, and a lot of
Nice.
korero and waiatas, and it was yeah, it
Yeah.
was beautiful. So it is a problem when you do move away from New Zealand, you do miss the culture
Mhm.
side of it.
Yeah.
But what what's happened is that I've taken what I learned from my cultural upbringing and along with the also the influences of the community and brought it into my community here. And I hang out with an awesome group and over here and come from either a footy background or surf lifesaving, and
Yep.
it's pretty much run like a marae. Yeah,
Awesome, man. I love that.
yeah,
That's cool. Wicked,
yeah.
man.
Yeah.
That's
But
cool.
the All Blacks are always king, and the good thing about living here. Do you know the good thing about living here? It is about rugby, but it's about the Bledisloe Cup rugby.
Right. Yes.
Do you know how long it's been since they won it,
I
Australia?
think it would be something like the early 90s, wouldn't it?
Yep. No, yeah, no, I think it's 20, something going about 24, 25 years.
Yeah.
So pretty much the whole time I've been here on the Gold Coast. So it's a very easy place to live being a Kiwi. And
Yeah.
yeah, because the Bledisloe Cup, you only have to bring up Bledisloe Cup and they shut up. Now with that recent win from last year, that awesome win where he just
Yeah.
smacked them around, obviously, and hopefully we can go on with that. We've had a few good wins along the way, but that was such an awesome win. We've obviously got a little bit more
Yeah.
to speak about.
Yeah, man. Damn right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Go the Kiwis. Okay, so in 1981, it was a pretty big year for you because you stepped up to Freedom's playing for Randwick, and as you said, going on the junior Kiwis and played for Wellington, if I'm correct. What was it like playing for Randwick and pulling on that jersey and representing the club?
yeah. Like I said, there's a whole lot of us actually came through the juniors. Came through. I think it was under 17s the following year, and we had a new coach. He had new ideas. He'd been a long time player, and he took over the reins. So in Wellington, you had four grades, like presidents, senior third, senior second, senior first, and then premiers. Well, that's five grades. So
Right.
and then we went from under 17 straight to sort of like first grade to
Oh, wow,
premiers,
that's a big
and there was a
jump.
whole bunch of us that came up. And but there was a couple of senior players they kept on, about four senior players, they're all rep players, led by John Whitaker, who was obviously a current Kiwi international.
Yep.
And we just played a style, a whole new different style. So Wellington was, you're talking about some big teams, tough teams, Waterside, Eastern Suburbs, who had the Henry brothers. Petone, who were just, they were up there with the very best, and they had a very, very good team too, very strong in the forwards. Nolan Tupai at the back, Mark Brandon, and Peter Mellors in the front. They're very, very Winnatana, who's also came from the All Blacks and came across. Very, very strong side. So it was a quick grounding in playing big boys games for
I
me.
bet.
Yeah, straight into it. And the boys are probably a bit bigger than they are today, but no less tough. And
Yeah.
yeah, we just played a different style of footy. So because we all came through together, we were all quick, young. We just shifted the ball. We were doing shifts on shifts, and we just running around these big blokes and running. We had our kick chase, our fitness
Yep.
was way beyond, and so we just played this great style of footy that we could run the ball, and then when Kevin Tarmany came along and Barry Eakins, probably Barry from the Hornby Club, he came and played for Randwick,
Yep.
and we had a couple of really good Cantabrians come up and play.
Yeah.
Um, we got some toughness in there as well. And one of the great grand finals in New Zealand Rugby League was Petone versus Randwick in the Wrangler Cup final, which is the
Yeah.
national final. We both knocked out Auckland teams,
Oh
and
wow.
it was pretty much Kevin Tarmany versus the whole Petone forward pack. And wow, what a game to be involved in! Yeah, a good era of rugby league for Wellington, and it was great fun. And between and Randwick had a family club, and they still base themselves on this family club, and it was a mixture of two families, which is the Whitakers. There was a couple of
Yep.
three Whitaker brothers that played, and the Rasmussens, and the Rasmussens sort of also were a big family in that club, and so they're both Cook Islands sort of backgrounds,
Okay.
and so we based it very much on that family club, and then all the wives and girlfriends and we had all these songs on the sideline, and it was we pretty much became well known for such a great vibe at all the games, and we had this huge band of followers that bought into the game and followed us. It was I've had some fun times, but it was up there with the best time of my life. Young, every fit, indestructible. I'd run 20k during the game, and then I'd run 10k as a warm down. And
Wow.
as a cop, I used to try and get on the beat, and I'd just run around all the towns, train at night.
Yep.
And when I was living in the hut, I used to ride into work, which is I don't know, maybe 30k into work. Then I'd run the wharfs, work, and then ride home, and then go and play footy. And so
Wow.
all the other guys are doing the same thing. So we're just really, really fit, and
Yeah.
we were just able to play this great game. To be honest, I wasn't very good, but I just played with a whole lot of good players, and because I just prided myself in being as fit as I could be, I'm
Yep.
always on the ball. I pretty much just followed the ball, and I'm there for the last pass. I
Yep.
think 3 years in a row I got top try scorer, but to be honest, I just caught the
Wow.
ball and fell over the line.
Yep.
I was just so lucky that, and I've always maintained that it wasn't me that made all these reps. It was the players I played with,
Okay.
and without a doubt, I played with some good players, and I just put myself in a position where I could be there, and just So thanks to all those guys, all my teammates.
Yeah. Well, to be fair though, the good players are the ones who train hard so that they are in the position to help their teammates out when that situation arises. If there's someone makes a break, they get tackled, they got no one to pass to because they're too unfit and they're, you know, on their haunches 20 meters back. That's credit to you for doing that training and being present, in the moment. That's amazing. So that would be your greatest strength, would you reckon?
Well, initially it was, and I certainly wasn't tough. But it's a matter of getting molded in that framework, and but yeah, it was probably my fitness initially, and as I say, it wasn't only me. We all came through this thing together. So
Yep.
when it wasn't when we weren't playing during the season, we were playing either as a team, we were playing touch and basketball and volleyball. Right. So we're playing every night of the week. We're playing the sport, and we're staying together as a group
Yep.
socially. And so we just knew what the other person did, what footwork he did, what pass he flicked out the back. And they just knew that I'm going to be there, or someone else is going to be there.
Yep.
And because we played with each other that often, you see it in brothers a lot that come through. And one of my best mates here is a fellow called Gary Walker, and he had three sons that all played first grade,
Okay.
and we've got three brothers that play in the All Blacks. Obviously, they came through together too, but you can just see the instinctive play, and I think that's a big thing to do with it too, and trust in the player.
Yes.
Yeah, and then I made a point of being a defender, with all these big blokes coming out, I sort of learned, I watch good defenders and watch how they'll tackle and how they'll complete the tackle and then how they do a winning tackle. But everything changed when I went to Newcastle.
Yeah. Okay. So you said you played for Wellington and you're part of 3 consecutive premierships playing for Wellington. Tell us about those
Yes,
days,
yeah.
man.
It was just a fun part, and we socialised. I met all the boys met our wives at the club, so it wasn't just a footy team; it was a community team. So after the game, the whole community would come to our club rooms, which is fairly central, and we'd always have a good time. And it was a good, there was no issues, there was no big heads, there
Right.
was no staunchness about it, no aggression, and it was just a really good, clean fun. And
Yep.
I met my wife there, who's about 5 meters away doing some work at the moment. And it was just a great club to be involved with. When you look back, you don't ever think about the wins and the losses. You think about the great games, and one of the great games, I've mentioned, that Wrangler Cup final, which is the first national final. The other one was we played. Australia played Central District, so they toured. They toured
Okay.
New Zealand. I think it was. I think it was 84. Anyway, they just came back. It might have been 83. They just come back from Great Britain, and it's the first time they were undefeated, and they were called the Invincibles.
Yes.
And and we played them at the Hut Wreck. And what the selectors, so the Central Districts is from pretty much Gisborne to Taranaki down.
Okay.
The bottom half of the North Island. And I remember 9 Randwick players being selected in the side and we had a couple of really other good players to help. But Australia had their test team. It was Meninga, Rebo, Gary Jack at the back,
Wow.
Sterling, Lewis, Dowling, all their monsters in the front. And we took them down to the wire.
Yep.
I can't quite remember the score, but it was only one try in it. It was like 8-4. And Johnny Gray, bless his soul, who was a winger, he was a troubled soul, I suppose. And do you know about Johnny Gray?
No.
Do you know? Oh, okay, it's worthwhile to having a look at Johnny Gray and dedicating something to him. So he was a winger, but he was currently in prison when and our first officer and our front rower, Snow Waihi, and our manager were both prison officers. Okay. And so they would bring him from prison to training and to him from the game.
Oh, really?
And I don't think it would happen today. And
No.
and he's one of those people you have to look sideways at because is he playing for us today or is he playing for someone else? Sort of never sure because his eyes sort of roll around a little bit. But with the ball in hand, you just couldn't stop him. He had this mental capacity of I'm indestructible. And he carried the whole Australian forward pack across the line 3 times. But it was either held up or disallowed try or whatever. 3 tries he scored at disallowed. 1 try was allowed. Yeah, and he was so strong. You just give him the ball and you start walking back to halfway. You just know he's going to finish. Yeah, he died of unfortunate circumstances, unfortunately. Now, the problem with Johnny Gray is that when we went on tour, like towards the end of the year, it was always playing these games away as a club. Plus, he was in the rep side. we had those days. I was the only policeman in the team.
Okay.
Guess who he roomed with?
Yeah, John Gray.
Those, they suck him with the policeman. I never got any sleep. I was like this the whole time. I was looking at it, I was like,
That's awesome.
so have you had your milk tonight yet, Johnny? Are you still awake? Oh, jeez. I don't think I ever got any sleep.
That's gold. That
Yeah,
is gold. Oh, awesome.
yeah.
Okay, so, let's have a look. So you said you went on a junior Kiwi tour. You were picked for the junior Kiwis. What's it like going on tour for the first time? And what were your experiences?
It was exciting. It was exciting. So I'd done a lap of Australia during the 70s as a tourist, but I suppose it was eye opening. These guys we were playing against were all pretty much selected, and they were going on to have professional careers at clubs. A lot of them were playing first grade. Our first game, we arrived over here. We went and watched Benny Elias, who was like a last year student. We were playing against him, and
Okay.
he was playing. He was playing for Balmain.
Yeah.
Balmain, and they have a midweek cup that was called the Toots Cup back then.
Okay.
And he was playing against Canterbury. And then they had a winger who we were playing against, and he was playing first grade at Balmain too. So it was wow. These guys are miles in front of us, but
Right.
they've already been groomed, and I think back then, and there was another guy called Phil Blake, played for Manly. Oh, we played with the Warriors. He was so good,
Yeah.
and
So good.
he was coming up as a schoolboy,
Yeah.
playing first grade, and and we were playing in the test match against them. So look, yeah, they were quite a few steps above us. I'm coming from playing for my local club at Nainai, and then playing at Sydney Cricket Ground against a fully professional side. I don't remember the score. I think the first test we went down to the wire, we went down to
Yep.
one try, and it was just because of yeah, we just gave it everything and a bit of kia kaha, and just tackled our ring out. They were probably
Yep.
unlucky. But once they were in camp together, they cleaned us up in the second and third test.
Okay.
I think they're the only games we lost. We beat New South Wales, beat Queensland. In that team, there was one other player that went and played for New Zealand Kiwis, and that was Joe Roparty, obviously
Oh, nice.
from a very good family. And
Yep.
Joe Rowe and I, we toured again a few other times with the Kiwis. So it was, it was just it was quite funny how a lot of players back then never went on. They didn't develop into senior players. You'd
Yeah.
probably only get one or two out of each year, but I think the machine has got a lot better at streamlining these
Yes.
players, and the opportunities are better now. A lot of things impact young men at 17 and 18 and 19 that
Yep.
that sort of stops them from reaching their potential early on. But if you're an assistant, obviously your chances are a lot greater. Yeah. So
Yep.
I think we had Tony Wildermuth was the vice captain of that tour. He's from Marist, I think, Marist and
Oh,
Christchurch.
Maris. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, awesome,
good
man.
player. He was a
That's
good
cool.
player. Yeah, I thought he might have got on a bit. He was a 5'8", very kicked both feet,
Yeah.
and very
Yep.
talented player.
Yeah, old Phil Prescott, he had a season at Marist when I had him on the podcast, just saying he loved playing for them. One of his favourite
Yeah.
seasons playing for Marist. Yeah. Yes. So was there ever any moments where you thought, okay, I really want to do this full time, like professionally? Because apparently the North Sydney Bears had a crack at signing you, but it didn't work out. Why'd you end up turning it down?
Oh, because I'd applied for the police prior, and when I got back, I was accepted into the police.
Okay.
Yeah, we went to a North Sydney game, and we played at North Sydney. I think we played New South Wales there, and spoke to one of the officials there, and he was so there was a program you could go back as a rookie program. They can go back without
Yes.
doing a transfer,
That's the rookie scheme,
and
wasn't it?
so I was going to go back and play the rest of the season. Yeah, but well, yeah, so when I found out that I was accepted into the police, and I was a young father, and I
Right.
sort of went. So I was, mum to go do the right thing, and yeah, settled down, buy a house. That's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
did that, did all that, and then thought, right, I've still got this burning desire.
Yeah.
I'm out of here.
Oh, good. And I hear when you were in the police force, you were actually the triathlon champion and named Police Sportsman of the Year. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was. So, so, so the police is similar to a footy team. Back then, there was a lot of cops playing All Blacks,
Really?
and there was a bunch of us, and well, actually there was a rugby union was big in the services and in the police. Yeah, and a lot of us worked together in Wellington, and they stuck all the guys together so we could get time off to go and play our
Okay.
sport. They were really good with guys playing sport at the top level, and making sure that they can get time off. Because it was good PR, I suppose. And there was a lot of us that sort of played. So what we do, we train together prior to work. And when things like the triathlon come along, I said, oh well, let's give that a crack. It's off
Yeah.
season, so yeah. And as I said, I used to ride into work anyway, so
Yeah.
I'm riding a round trip of 50, 60K a day to work,
Oh, wow.
and then I'd go for a run, and every kid can swim. In New Zealand, when you do a bomb, you have to swim back.
Yeah. So you're set to
So
go.
yeah, so it was just a way of having a bit of fun, keeping fit, and we ended up doing a few of those. We did the Topor triathlon. We used to go up there and make a bit. It was our trip away, sort of boys
Yeah.
trip away, where you sort of have extra fun, if you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
we used to get away from home and go up there and have a bit of fun, and
Yeah.
we just happened to had to do this triathlon. Now Kenny Laban, I'll tell you a story. You know Kenny. So Kenny was
Yeah.
a cop. Do you know of Ken Laban?
I know the name, yes.
Yeah. There weren't many players playing rugby league back then, but there was Ken Laban, Dave O'Sullivan. They were all cops in town. They all changed to Randwick, obviously. Hookie, he changed. There was Ronnie McGregor. All these guys, I got them over to because we were good mates, and said, "Oh, when you come have a game of league?" Um, Kenny, I think top try scorer in Wellington for about 4 or 5 years. He does obviously does a lot of rugby union commentary now. He's doing a great job.
Okay.
Um, anyway, we'd go and do the triathlon in Taupo, and the swim is you swim along the foreshore and back. It's like a 2K swim or something like that.
Oh,
Anyway,
wow.
not many Samoans can swim, unless they've got a screwdriver in their hand and some flippers, and they've got in power. So I said, "Oh, Kenny, it's no worries. You just swim out and you swim along the foreshore. If you get tired, you can just get up and walk."
Yeah.
And so oh yeah, right, no problem, I'll do it. So when we got up there, it had been raining for a week, so all the water came down and had flooded. But where they put the cans, the swimming cans, was
Yeah.
like 8 foot of water. Yeah, 8 foot of water. It's like, it took them like 2 hours to do the swim to go from one boy, hang on, dog found to the next boy. They said, "Oh man, I'm
Oh,
never trusting you guys again."
no, you stitched them up.
Yeah,
You
funny
stitched
thing.
them up. Uh, okay, so let's move on to 1985. You got selected for the Kiwis. I mean, what a great honor, I guess, for yourself. And you went on the tour to Great Britain and France, playing 11 games. What's the experience like going into camp for the first time? Like, rooming with your first roommate. What were some of the great names you were with and some of your experiences?
Oh, look, the 1985 tour really sort of made me as a player and a person. Obviously, with it just come around the corner, and I think it was the '84. So I captained the New Zealand resident side in 1984,
Oh,
New
nice.
Zealand, and things were going okay, and I was playing okay and making these teams, but you always got to hedge your bets. You think, oh, have I done enough? There's a lot of good players coming, always good players coming through. Then there was the established core of the in my position, like Bruce School, Graham West, Mark Graham, Hugh McGann. So all these guys are in my position, um, and obviously they're going to be picked first. So there was a really good group of experienced guys that were on tour. Olsen Filipina, Dana Hara, James Luluwai, Fred Arcoy,
Oh, wow.
Clayton Friend, Graham Lowe. Graham Lowe was the coach. Had brought them through '85. They had that good win against Australia. Previous year, and with Kevin Tarmady, obviously
Yep.
had that blue with Dowling.
Oh, Greg Dowling. Oh, like,
Yeah,
great fight.
yeah. And the year before was Rowan Hancock. He knocked out Rowan Hancock in the first hit-up. So it was touch and go, but obviously when my name was read out, I was excited, and obviously no mobile phones back then. Couldn't get any text messages, so obviously went to training. But they broadcast it on the news in Wellington, which was unusual to get a rugby league mention in Wellington. So I was I was absolutely ecstatic. And so going into camp, we went into camp for a week, and went out to the room, and then I went into the room and found out that I was rooming with Mark Graham. Like
Oh, wow.
I've never met him before, and obviously he only comes up. It was only once a week on the TV screens. We used to get the Tooth Cup on TV the week after they played on a Sunday morning. So he was sort of this icon that you're never going to get to meet, but somewhere in Australia he plays. So it was. I'm not sure. I think the first thing he said to me, he says, "Oh, you're Sammy. Yeah, I've heard a bit about you. My name's Mark Graham. I'm your roommate. Now,
Yeah.
that side of the room is yours. If you draw a line down there, this side is mine." And I can already see, he's only just moved in there, been there for an hour, and the place was a mess. And I can see, right, well, that's fine with me. You just keep your mess over there. Because I was a tidy freak back then. I don't know why, but I was a really tidy freak. And always tidying up. But we went on to be great mates. Obviously, we shared some lot of touching things, moments. We're great mates now. We communicate now. We obviously look out for each other's kids, and
Nice.
he had some times in life, and I try to be there for him, and vice versa, and went down the following year after the '86 tour, went and stayed with him in Sydney, myself and my wife, sort of. So it was great. I learned a lot of them, and we just talking in general. And along with him, obviously, I didn't mention Dane and Kurt Sorensen. They were always also on the tour.
Legends.
So you're talking about all these experienced players that are already seasoned professionals, and then there was a band of all new players. So and there was Darryl Williams, Shane Cooper, Mark Bourneville, Marty Krieger from Hornby, myself. I was the only one from Wellington. A young fellow called Glenn Gibb from the West Coast. Yeah, and obviously Graham Lowe was the coach, and he wasn't a technical coach, like didn't show you the plays or how to tackle as such. He was more of a manager, I suppose, to manage the situation, manage people, and the players were the coaches. So the players were the ones who actually taught you to play. I learned in my career. I've learned most of my footy from players, as opposed from coaches or skilled coaches. It's probably developed a lot now, where they've got skilled coaches, and the coach is the manager. So Wayne Bennett, and we have 4 or 5 coaches dedicated to a particular function of the game. But back then, you found the players playing with players taught you a lot, and you just if you're in the zone, you just pick up stuff anyway, and if you're keen. But look, the '85 tour was a wonderful tour. No mobile phones.
Yep.
No account of, we used to write letters. We used to have every day we'd set aside an hour to go home and write letters. Everyone would write a letter to their whomever, loved ones, I suppose. Yeah,
that's cool, man.
And it was great. It was real old school times. We were in one town in England for the whole time we played. Stayed in Harrogate, which is in Yorkshire, and we hired a couple of old cars, vans, so we could just get around in. During the downtime, we had a weekend, a few days off. We all went to we were in France. We went to Spain. We went to Spain and down the French Riviera, sort of for a couple of days. Actually, '85 we went to French Riviera. '89 we went to Spain, and we got into a bit of trouble in Spain. That's a different story.
Feel free to tell it. Feel free.
But the English game was very, very strong. The clubs were strong. We had a big Wigan contingent, and obviously in Hull. So I think there was three Kiwis playing at Hull. So they'd only come over for the tests. So that was just James Lulawai, Fred Arcoy, and Dana Hara. Yeah, Graham West was at Wigan, and Wigan were going through that winning streak of I don't know how many. I think 5 or 6 Challenge Cup wins, and they were a great side. And Howie Carmody, he played at Wigan, and Kevin was playing at Witness. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, so you actually play against your team when you play that club. You play against them. You play against your teammates. Yeah, which was unusual, but it was cool, and that it was always extra physical. And back then, I suppose the opening 10 minutes is expected to be tough, and the referee would pretty much put his whistle away.
Okay.
And just let them sort each other out. This is the sorting out period.
Yeah.
So, but at the same time, when you're playing against teammates, like you don't want to injure them or get injured. You don't mind bashing the palms. Well, that was easy. But you don't want to bash your teammates. So you sort of tackle them, and every time there's a blue on or a stink on, you go just grab up and pull them out of it. You don't want them getting a loose one. Then again, they're not holding you back because they've got loyalty to their teammates. We're in a black jersey, but we're not their teammates. We're the enemy. So when we played against Witness, it was Blocker Roach, Les Boyd. I don't know if you know Les Boyd.
Yeah, man. I know Les Boyd.
Infamous name. Kevin Tarmody.
Yeah.
That was their front row.
Oh, my God.
Les Davidson and Harry Pinner was in their second row.
Wow.
Les Davidson. So, wow.
The Giants, man.
So we just played the game like touch. Let's get away from these guys. Yeah. I think I remember playing in the '87 Test against Australia at Lang Park.
Yeah.
And Les Davidson came off the bench. And those days I'd run a straight line, then a really hard inside shoulder line and try to attack the inside shoulder. Well, after I did that to Les, I said, "Oh, wow, who is that?" He just smacked me to kingdom come. I developed the right foot, right steps. I see Les on this side of the field. I'll go over to the other side of the field and run.
Oh, that's funny.
Two of us was meant to go behind me, and I was the lead runner, and it came behind me. The pass wasn't meant to go to me anyway, but it sort of, I'm not sure, it might have been Shane Cooper who threw it. He was meant to go through behind me and hit the player, but I might have grabbed for the ball because I thought it was going to know. So because I had to reach back for it, it sort of went behind me. I suppose that's why it wasn't a knock on. So anyway, if it gets called a knock on, well, no worries. You just got to make the best of the moment. So yeah, I just picked the ball up and then thought, oh well, this, it's it, run way forward. And it was actually a bit of a jump. I think I startled whoever it was, because rather than running, I jumped at them, and because they'd gone to hit me, I glanced off the top of their shoulder.
Yeah.
I was and then bounced off one, and then sort of like a pinball bounced off another, and then went through. Yeah. And I just heard something out of my right side, which is now full of wax. I couldn't happen today. But that game, you only have to again look at who they had playing, and that was a hell of a side we played. That was at the end of the Origin series. They picked the Australian side, so they were hard, and they scored. I think it was Peter Sterling scored in about the 4th or 5th minute.
Yeah, really.
They never scored another point.
No.
They didn't score another point for something like 74 or 75 minutes. They never scored a point. To hold that team out, Michael O'Connor, Dale Shearer, Gene Miles, and Brett Kenny. It was to hold them out. And Wiley Lewis was losing it. As the game went on, he was getting more and more frustrated. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was. And it was one of the, because it was a few of the players stood down. A lot of them had retired. So all those players I said before had retired or weren't available for that game. So the only players we had playing in Sydney was Dean Bell, who was, I think Dean Deno was captain, and Hugh McGahn. And Hugh McGahn was playing at Roosters. Otherwise, the Roosters side was just homegrown side. And we had no English players. So it was only Kiwi. It was only a New Zealand side. So that's how strong the New Zealand competition was at that stage. We were all just, and I just remember going from tackle to tackle to tackle and just, and we had a sniff at about 15 minutes to go. So, we're holding these guys, And when we came together, we said, we can hold them. We can hold them out. And Gary Mercer, never even heard of him from Rotorua. Who's Gary Mercer? Where did he come from?
He's a legend now.
He had a hell of a game, and and Kevin Edel was just a beast. It was one of those really unheralded games, and I know I've spoken, every time I see Daryl, it comes up when we have a coffee here a lot. Daryl's just a local fella down the road here, and we talk about it, and we still shake our heads and saying that that was one of those effort on effort games. Yeah. And we just keep turning up for each other. It's one of those games just keep turning up, and I was just busted. Yeah, just busted after that.
But doesn't it go to show, though, like the old adage of defence wins games, and then you just take those opportunities when they arise on attack, and you get those points. And regardless, who cares what the scoreline wins? If you win by 1 try or 10, it makes no difference as long as you win. But the defence is what wins you the game. And when you're taking on Australia with such a star-studded lineup, and you guys were just prepared to roll up the sleeves and smash them, that won you the game. It's amazing.
Yeah, look. Also, I think it was critical was that really shaky 1 point. Shane Cooper hit that drop goal right on half time.
Oh, yeah.
It was the worst drop goal in history. It barely got off the ground. I don't know how it got over the post. I had to have a look at it. I didn't even know if it went over the post. But it was the worst drop goal in history. But I went over and we got the 1 point. So it just put them out of touch. And it really put the pressure on of 2 scores. They have to score against us twice.
Yeah.
And although it was never safe, but it was always, you always knew you had that little safety 1 point in the background, 13-6.
Yeah.
And it was a psychological thing. And it was, for me, it was a psychological boost saying that, they've got to score twice. And I tell you what, you only have to tackle them and they fall over.
Yeah.
And then, but I'm looking at all my teammates and they're just working their ass off. I said, I just can't let them down. I'm not going to be the one that's going to let someone through. And, be that. Not me, not tonight.
Nice. Oh, it's one of the great wins, man. I love it. But just winding back a year, you were the captain of the New Zealand Maori side at the Pacific Cup. How proud a moment was that for you, playing for your Maori heritage and captaining the side?
Look, I was only thinking about it the other day when the game was on telly here. How proud I was to be captain, and it was a special moment. Yeah, it was a special moment. And again, I went into camp not expecting to be named captain, but just to be in the side representing the Maori team, and we had a pretty good side, but it was a real tough tournament. We played like every day. You play every day.
Wow,
and when
you're playing, sore, man.
The saving grace in that tournament was that day one, I think we played Cook Islands. Day one was Samoa played Tonga.
Oh my God, they would have bashed each other.
Oh, and they did. It was. You may as well have played the game in 10 metres width. Because they just played it, they just run into each other and just want to run over top of them. There was no passing, but it was tough, and it was a tough tournament. But that was probably my first time I led the Haka, and then the other one was leading the Haka at the World Cup final. It was a special moment, but. And we had our Tane, our Toanga there, so it was a special moment, and I was close to my mother's side in the Waikato, so I knew it meant a lot to people back there that one of their whānau was being represented, and so I've always acknowledged my marae back there, so. Even though that I've been away for such a long time, but there are some very humble beginnings. Yeah, so I'm always happy to give back where and whenever I can. Yeah, it was a good tournament. It was a tough tournament.
Yeah, I'm a Waikato boy. I'm from there. I only moved to Christchurch a year ago, so I've been there my whole life. Yeah, where's your mum from?
Morrinsville.
No way! I lived there for 8 years.
Oh, really? Yeah. Well, there's a little marae called Rukumoana. It's about 2K out of town. Yeah, towards Matamata. Yeah.
Yeah, I know the one. Yeah. They've got a really cool creek you can go swimming in behind it.
Yes, they have. Yeah,
I've been there.
We catch heaps of eels there. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah.
Oh, so I did a big detour and took my family, all my kids, my grandkids there when we were back there at Christmas, and we just went to the marae, and the Urupa is out the front, the cemetery, and all my uncles and aunties and mum's buried there, and so it was special.
That's so cool. Oh, that's awesome, man. Okay, so also in '86, you went on the tour of Australia and Papua New Guinea. Now, you're not allowed to leave the podcast without giving me your best story from Papua New Guinea, because there's always a good one. So I want to hear a good story from the tour.
Yeah, Papua New Guinea, wow. The best thing about being in the Cops was that I didn't work a lot that year, but because you're representing at like a national level, and you're on full pay. So
oh wow. Nice.
I think I only worked a couple of weekends. But obviously we were spoken to and we had a lot of injections to go. And it was a fairly full tour. So we were up in Goroka and we went to Kimby, which is in the island zone. So we went around sort of pretty much to these outback places. Now, has anyone else told you this? I'm sure they would have from the 86 tour. So where they have all these trucks and they're obviously goods trucks that go up the side of these mountains. And the roads are fairly ordinary, and they're single lane roads, and occasionally you have a passing lane, but pretty scary. And so one of the trucks has to back up, or you sit on or you sort of just travel to a passing lane and then stop and wait. But I suppose they would have had what I call it. Handheld, sort of transmitter radios.
Yep.
But we actually flew into Goroka. We flew in. Now, why I mentioned the trucks is there was an Australian truck driver, and what they did is that all the locals, why these big trucks are going up the hill, they're going up at about 6 kilometres an hour up the passes. All the local tribesmen, they jump on the back and steal all the goods off the trucks.
Oh wow.
And so what the companies do is that they employ security men sitting on the back of the trucks,
right?
And they sort of keep the villagers off from getting all their goods. One particular one is that they attacked the truck and the security pushed them off down the cliff, and 2 of these guys died.
Oh wow!
Were killed, 2 villagers. So up in the mountains, it's a village law: eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. So the driver was being held by the local constabulary or whomever. Now, the local constabulary have to obviously adjust to the local laws somewhat. We're staying in a hotel in Goroka, and we've heard the story about this driver, and he is pleading for us to help him to get in contact with either the High Commission or whoever, because he's not going to last the trial. That the villagers are going to attack them because they've been attacking the hotel, and they're going to attack and then finish them off. So what we did, we had a meeting, and we actually brought him into the team, put him in a tracksuit, gave him a name, and we flew, and he came in our team, and we flew him to Brisbane. We go on a flight to Brisbane. It's part of our team. Saved his life. Yeah.
That's amazing. See, that's a great story. Yeah. That's amazing.
Have you heard that one? Yeah.
No, that's a new one. Oh, mate, that's unreal. Oh,
and the other story where we were in fear for our own life on that same tour, we went down. Oh, I'll have to tell you about this story. So we're getting in Goroka. We're in Goroka, and we played the game. It was a test match. So it was, I forget the result. We won, but I forget the result. But anyway, we're then flying, going to the airport, and we're loading on all our gear, and we're all big. There's 28 of us, whatever, and 30 with including the physio and all the gear, and we're on this plane. Anyway, the pilot starts the engine. Nothing happens. Okay, didn't think too much about it. And then there's this local chimba walks out with a pair of white opals. They cut off at the knee and cut off at the sleeves, cut off here. And he's got a ladder and a couple of screwdrivers, and he walks out there and he props his ladder out, climbs up into one of the wing engines, opens up the bonnet, jumps inside, and you can see his feet sticking out like this. Couple of minutes in there, climbs down, gives the thumbs up to the pilot. And then couple of guys, couple of turns, it goes. And the manager said, we're not flying in this plane. We're not flying after some local chimney's going in there and filled around with a couple of screwdrivers. Well, stop the plane. So we all got off, emptied out of gear, thought, oh, well, we're going to have to get a bus down. There's no other planes. Couldn't get a plane. So we're going to get a bus down. Got a bus company, loaded all the gear. Anyway, we're driving down this road, and we were just saying, well, why didn't we fly? I'd rather go in the plane. So you're looking, as it goes around, you're just looking sheer cliff. You can't see a road. You'll probably see them in Chile, or it's horrific. Sheer cliffs down the road. Anyway, halfway down, we've pulled over. So we need a pit stop. We've pulled over at one of these overtaking spots. We pulled a stop there. Now, what we've got is that we've got all these, at the markets, they sell these boomerangs and bows and arrows and all this local home. So it's Dean Lonergan and Ron O'Regan. They're out there with bows and arrows, and they're trying to see who can fire the highest. So right outside the doorway, choom, arrow goes up in the air. Okay, so anyway, we don't know who did it. It was one of those two. They both had, and they both shot. So I suppose they don't know whose good at the highest. And the arrow's gone up. Then it's come straight down. At the same time, the drivers walked out. Whoosh. That's it.
Oh no.
No, so we've got no driver. And one of the boys, I think, went and sat in the driver's seat while he's getting attended to.
Yeah.
And the driver's been drinking out of his bottle, his water bottle next to him, but it's straight rum. So what's happened, it's hit the driver. The driver's gone unconscious, but because he was pissed, he was blind. And he's drinking straight rum, because I've seen him drinking the bottle the whole way down, but it's straight rum. He's drinking rum the whole time. Down this road. So what happens is that Graham Lowe has jumped in and driven us down. And we've bundled old mate back there, and he drove the bus down to our next hotel. So it was
that's
a lot of
Papua New Guinea.
and in the next game, we went to inspect the field, and it was full of rocks. And we said, we can't play. We're not, and they said, this is the only field we're here. So we're playing a representative side. And he said, this is the only team here. He said, well, we can't play. It's full of rocks. We're cancelling the game. So the villagers, or the locals, because they're so passionate about the game, they've come and they started stoning the hotel, throwing stones at the hotel we were staying. And I'll tell you what, we're fearing for our lives. They put security out there. Yeah.
So Papua New Guinea. Every time a good story.
Yeah.
I don't even want to hear about the footy when it comes to Papua New Guinea. I just want to hear what happened while you were there.
Yeah.
It's too good.
The footy's tough. To play over there, they're really tough.
Yeah.
Because they got the energy of the crowd and the expectation, and it's the biggest game in their life.
Yeah.
To play a touring team. Yeah, no wonder teams don't want to tour there anymore. Boy.
And with a crowd like all hanging out of trees and stuff like that.
All over trees, and they grab you and they touch you and they pick you, and you think, you don't know if I can imagine how those superstars, go through those movie stars and pop stars. Boy, but I'm sure they've never toured Papua New Guinea.
Okay, so let's move on to 1988, where you signed with the Newcastle Knights and you were named their inaugural captain. But I want to know is how you ended up at the Knights, because the New Zealand Rugby League had all these hoops and transfer fees and rules about signing in Australia. What was your journey to make it to Newcastle Knights?
Well, I've got Ken Laban to thank, to be honest. Ken coming back after the 86 or after the 87 game. What happened was that a couple of clubs spoke to me after that test match in Australia. Obviously the Broncos, and then there's a representative from the Newcastle Knights was there, and he said, "Would you be interested in coming back? There's 3 new teams." I'm not sure if they had the go ahead, but they were that test match, but they were in the sort of the final selection of expansion, going to 16 teams. Yeah. And obviously the Gold Coast. So I went back and I said, well, I can get leave without pay. I can get leave without pay for a couple of years, and this is the perfect opportunity. We had a young family. My wife was happy to go and have a crack and different. Have a go. So we Ken I spoke to Newcastle on my behalf, and the deal was pretty much done. But what was my benefit? You're right about the hoops. So those days you had to go on 2 tours or play 6 tests.
Right.
And if you remember, the Sorensens hadn't when they came across, so they stood down, or you stand down for a year. Yeah, so that was never an option of standing down. But I'd qualified as a Kiwi to go overseas, so I played, and got leave without pay. And the boss, the local boss of Wellington, was a leaguey, and he says, "Go for as long as you like, and the job will be here when you get back."
Oh, how good!
So I kept extending it from to a point where obviously I'm not going back. Not going back now.
Fair enough. So, what's it like when you're selected as captain? You're running out for the first time. Were you thinking like, this is where I want to be? This is what I want to do? Because I don't think Newcastle were chock full of superstars, and I mean, you didn't make the finals or anything that year, did you? But you're very much in Newcastle were ready for a team, because they were locals and all that sort of thing. Were you quite proud of that achievement?
Yeah, you're right, and I had no idea what to expect. I looked at it on the map. You couldn't Google stuff and what have you. From the Newcastle representatives that came over and spoke to me in Wellington, maybe the fact that I was a little bit older. I was a family man. I was a policeman, and I had some international experience. You're right about it being a very young side from a captain's point of view, and I was currently captain of a couple of teams. And although it was always a tricky one making a Kiwi a captain of an Australian side, I thought.
Yeah, that's a sticky point, isn't it?
Because there was still this love-hate relationship going on, to be honest. And Newcastle, what wasn't sort of, it was different to being in Sydney or Brisbane. It was like a big country town.
Yeah.
So look, when you go and play footy at a town, you've got instant mates. So it was easy for me, but it was a little bit more difficult for my wife, and we had a couple of young kids too, because she didn't have any friends or family, so which was always something had to be managed, and I'm well aware that the Newcastle management saw that as probably not as important one as I see it now, but to manage the girlfriend side of it and the wives side of it too, they have to be happy for the player to do well, I suppose. But Newcastle seemed a great place, ideal. In the past, they've supplied a lot of players into the ARL. Was that time? It was still ARL then, and they had supplied a lot of players. But you're right, we had no stars. I think we entered that first year. Our total first grade experience was 8 games across the whole squad. Yeah,
that's right.
Most of the team had come from, some of them from local. There's a few local blokes, or from reserve grade from other clubs. From Kiwis, there was James Gooding, myself. Adrian Shelford came in halfway because he was playing in England. He came through a little later.
Nice.
Now, there was a rookie program going on too.
Yep.
And where players they could get 12 months. They could go play for one season, but then they had to go back to New Zealand and serve their rest of their time until they qualify. So under that program was Tony Kemp, Tia Pati, and George Mann.
Nice. Yeah. And you had Tony Kemp come over.
Yeah. So Tony Kemp, yep. So he was club mate. And sort of and it was good for him to sort of come over to, and there was a couple of other senior boys here, so we had a good Kiwi contingent. Nice. I was mindful that we didn't stay over in our own corner, that we mixed with all the players, because I could see an issue happening if that was the case. But because a lot of them came from far and wide, they didn't have any ties to any particular group or whatever. So no, we mixed really well. We bonded well. We just lacked experience, but that was going to come within a few years. Yeah. Our first game was against Manly. They were the premiers from the year before.
Yeah, they were.
And they beat
Canberra.
Actually, in that great final.
They did. Yeah.
They beat Canberra. They had a very good side, and we beat them 24-12. Yeah.
Oh, nice. So, that's not a bad way to kick things off.
So it was for a big trophy called the Herald Challenge Cup, and I went down with a group of mates down there in November. Went on a mountain bike trip down to Thredbo, and we came back to Newcastle, and they just finished a high performance centre. So Danny Baderis was happy to show us through and give us the ropes. Yeah. And as soon as you walk in the front foyer, it's really flash. It's $25 million high performance centre. Big photo of me holding this trophy up right in the front. Yeah, it was Herald Challenge, the very first trophy we won. Yeah,
that's so cool.
So they've held on to a lot of their history, and then they said, these guys have laid their foundation, and they did it with blood, sweat, and tears, and it was literally, back then. And they've used that as a benchmark, which is great.
Yeah, man.
Oh, I was gobsmacked actually when I walked in the door and saw it. So, you've had some other good players at this club.
Yeah.
You see, but not before you though. So that was a proud moment.
So do you still support Newcastle as your club, or who do you follow in the NRL these days?
No, hell no. Like I said, I've bled for them, and a couple of my kids were born in Newcastle. No, I go back to Old Boys Day as much as I can, and I always support them. Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, still got a lot of good friends. Keep in contact when I can with some of the players I went around with, and it's not a Kiwi thing. No, Kiwi thing's a special thing when you spend time together. It goes very deep when it's your teammates. Your teammates playing club football, and you're sweating over each other. You spend all that time training. You form a special bond. Yeah. But it just lacks that last 10% that the New Zealand thing adds. Yeah. Can you make sense of that?
Yeah, that makes sense. Absolutely. Yeah.
So my Randwick mates and the mates that I played with for New Zealand go a little bit deeper than the guys I played with in Newcastle. I also captained side in London and captained in Hull. But I certainly got a lot of time for them.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, cool, man. So, you actually played in the 1988 World Cup final for New Zealand as a reserve, coming off the bench. What was it like, playing in a World Cup final against the Kangaroos? That has to be up there.
Well, what it was because it was the bicentennial year of Australia. So it was a big year for Australia in all things, and we still had belief in ourselves from the previous year, the game against the previous year. At the same token, it was extra incentive for Australia not to let that happen again. But
yes.
But two big things happened in that game. One, it was at Eden Park. So never before in history has a game been played at Eden Park. It was set aside for the All Blacks, and fair enough too. So to play on Eden Park was special. And the other moment was leading the Haka. Leading the Haka in the World Cup final was very proud moment for myself, my family, and the game. I don't know how many minutes I got, but whatever it was, I wish it was more.
Yeah, but you were there, mate. You were there.
I was just jumping up and down on the beach. The seat was bouncing. I said, I'm ready. Let me leave.
Coach. Oh, brilliant.
So, there's an interchange thing now where you can come on and go off. But back then is when you're off, you're off.
Okay.
And you've only got 2 changes. So if you make your 2 changes in the first half, you've got no reserves in the second half. Yeah.
Oh, that's tough.
So the coach had to basically wait to a point where the injury factor wasn't going to come into it, and then we've just got to throw everything at the game.
Yeah. Doesn't that go to show how fit you guys were back then? Like 2 interchanges for the whole match. Like we're spoiled now.
I think what it also created was opportunities for little men. So little men would come into the game like Alfie Langer, Peter Sterling, Clayton Friend. They'd make all these amazing breaks from in around the ruck because it's tied forwards. They've been playing 60 and 70 minutes. So, the smart ones would just wait until there's, someone half in the tackle or just behind the box there, behind the ruck. It's a little bit wide and then they'd come into their own. And that's why you used to get all these breaks from the little men, which you don't get now.
No.
You don't get those breaks,
Yeah.
And not in that, you'd also get offloads from the big. There's a lot more offloading back then because defences weren't as intense all the time.
Yeah.
The defences will start to drop off too. And you go in there and you can promote the ball a little bit more as the game wore on.
Yeah. Yeah, bring it back, I say. Bring it back. Want to see those good plays.
Right. The war of attrition. That's right.
Yeah, I love it. But about 1989, you played on the tour of Great Britain and France. You played 5 test matches on the tour. You got any good memories of that tour, mate?
Yeah, it was a funny old tour because it wasn't the same as 85 because suddenly you're a senior player.
Right.
And you haven't got all these senior players to look up to or to run off or when something's going on. You're rich. And you've got all these younger players. But the younger brigade were different. They weren't like us. So when we came into tour, we were now doing our apprenticeship. We were respectful. We sat in the back until there's all these rules, unwritten even, and we were happy to earn our stripes.
Right.
But these guys that came on, they just thought they had made it. No, you hadn't made it. You just got, you're only just here with 1 foot on tour.
Right.
And it became known as the party tour.
Right.
So, interpret that to whatever, but one bloke turned up and he was sent home. He didn't even get to play a game.
Really? Oh, God.
So that's probably talking out of turn. I don't know. But some of us we've spoken of, and it changed. There was a definite change in the guard of the younger brigade. And it's changed a lot since then. And, we spoke about it initially before. It's changed the mentality of people, of the community, of expectations. We never spoke out of turn. And we said, how far, how high. And we learned. We earned our stripes, through, and we learned the right way. But I just feel like that the young blokes that came on that tour didn't respect the jumper enough. And I think you've got to do the hard yards to respect it. And accordingly, we had factions. There was factions first time, that groups would go off. Now, you wouldn't all do things together. Your groups would go off and
really.
So it was unusual. It was an unusual tour. Saying that, Tank Gordon, bless his soul, great guy, but he was different to Graham Lowe from a man-manager point of view. What Graham Lowe, you respected him. I think probably Tony Gordon didn't have the respect from everyone, and I think people sort of took advantage of it really, and sort of stretched the bungee cord, and they're there for a good time.
So in 1993, you signed with the London Crusaders. So how did you end up over there? And was that because you were primarily being used off the bench a lot with the Newcastle Knights? Was that the reason why you moved?
No, I actually in 85 and particularly in 89, I was looking for an opportunity to go to England to play. I thought, I'd given it a good crack in Australia, and just I was ready to go home, really, and but I'd like to have a crack in England. And then Tony Gordon rang me up, so he was obviously the Kiwi coach in the 89 tour. He got the London job. So what happened was that there was a thing called Super League came along. So it was basically a media war between Murdoch and Haka. And in Australia it was Channel 9 and I think it was Channel 7, similar to what they did in the cricket. So Rupert Murdoch had this idea of taking this game globally, this game of rugby league, and calling it a Super League. So what he had done, and if you remember, he was going to make not rugby league, but he was going to make a hybrid game. So there was a couple of games going on where there was a half a game in league and a half a game in union, or there was a rugby league. Yeah, so Bath played Wigan. So they played.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So what happened? There was about half a dozen of these games. So Bath were the champion side, and it created a lot of interest. So Bath were the best rugby union side. Wigan was the best league side. They played each other in a half a game of rugby union, line outs, scrums. Okay. So Wigan had to do a quick thing of line outs and whatever. Anyway, they lost the first half, something like 18-14, something like that. It was like 4 or 5 points. They played union. Then they played league. Wigan won the league 44-0.
Yeah, take that, Union. Take that.
So there wasn't a lot of great disparity between ones, but when it came to shifting the ball and the speed, Wiggins just blew them off the park. Ellery Hanley, Henderson Gill,
Stop it.
They just had, Schofield, they just had a magic side.
It's just like, give me the ball.
So there was a few of those games going on, and what Murdoch was going to do was going to make a hybrid game. Wow. And this is what I heard. So he was going to reduce, after looking at the games and what was the most appealing game, he was going to reduce the players from 15 to 13.
Yeah.
Okay. And then get rid of the line-out. So what have you got? You've got rugby league.
They got rugby league.
He's going to get rid of all the slow things of the game, speed up the scrum,
Yep.
less people on the park, and get the game faster. And this game would appeal. So what he did, he said, I'm going to start a London club in London, and use London as the central point.
Okay.
I'm going to go globally from London.
Okay.
Go to America, go to Europe from London. So London was the economic central point. So he bought an existing club called the London Crusaders, which started 1 year. We were London Crusaders.
Yes.
So I went over there and was the first captain of London Crusaders.
Oh, wow.
And in the meantime, in Australia, the Super League war was at its peak. You had a super competition and an ARL competition.
Yeah, that was 97.
97, that's right. And that's right when Newcastle won the first grand final.
That's right. Yep.
Players were doing all sorts of, a lot of players got a lot of money, individual players. So the following year, Murdoch renamed the London Crusaders the London Broncos because he already owned Brisbane Broncos.
Yes, he did.
So the London Broncos, and he brought over an Australian contingency.
Okay.
So Tony Gordon was gone, and there was the Broncos. So he had Broncos this, Broncos that, Broncos CEO, So and there was a whole lot of Australian players played.
Yes.
Because the London team, we had a dispensation. All other clubs could, I think, it had 2 or 3 imports.
I think 3. Yeah.
Yeah. Where London only had to have 3 English players. And those 3 English players, one of them was John Gallagher.
Yep.
Who came from the All Blacks. The other one were 2 South African players because South African players counted as English players.
Okay.
So they were both Andre Stoop and another, but they were both internationals, good players. And I forget the other guy's name offhand. So and then at the same so there was the London Broncos were born, and history shows that the Australian comp went for 1 year and it only went for a couple of years, and it blew over for I don't know why, but the London Broncos are still going, and England is still playing Super League. Yeah, and then we had and then I think it was the 95, 96 season maybe it changed to summer over there. So that was also part of rather than compete with rugby union, they were going to play summer, and play the same season as the Australian season.
That's right.
And we basically had 2 weeks off and then started another season and started the summer season over there.
Did you enjoy your time over there? Like, do you have a good crack?
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah.
English people are great. Yeah. And the North, particularly the North. So I had a couple of 3 years in London, then went up north, and I had a lot of mates who were playing up there a lot. So Tony Kemp, John Schuster, they were Tawa and Nico, Richie Blackmore, John Kipper was still there. We were good mates from Wellington. John Gallagher and I were mates from Wellington.
Okay.
So David Boyd, Michael Hagan from the Knights. So we were all over there at the same time. Yeah. Cool. And so we got together regularly, and it's not that far to travel from East Coast to West Coast. And I was staying right over in the East Coast, right at the end of the earth, in a place called Hull. And but we loved it there. Yeah, it was the people were simple, and there was only one sport there. They just played rugby. They loved rugby league. It was like Newcastle. There's only one sport exists in Newcastle. They don't play rugby union. They don't play soccer or anything like that. It was only one game. And same with Hull. So Hull is just a dead set rugby league town. It's like Greymouth in New Zealand.
Yeah.
I know Greymouth used to be the only place where they had to play one sport, And in the West Coast there's like 8 clubs, but there's only like 50 people there, and they had 8 clubs. So I don't know how that.
That's crazy, eh? That's good stuff. So, is there any major differences between playing in the UK and the Australian comp back in those days?
Yes, massive difference. Yeah, so Australia base themselves on defence. They play on hard fields, so it's a lot faster. The English game is on attack.
Yes.
So you can lose a game by 44, 48.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of offloads, and because of the grounds, your footwork, you can beat tackles with footwork. So you can't. Over here, you can get a solid hit on, a good hit, because your feet are planted, and you don't get wrong-footed. Over there, because you're playing in soft grounds, you can get wrong-footed easy by someone with really good footwork. Yeah, and if you attack inside shoulder, so what happens? They don't get a really good hit on you, and you can look to offload the ball. But it just seems that the English players just offload the ball, whatever, it's out the back, under their legs, over their heads, and it just became a thing that you're always playing off the ball. There's a lot of support. It was a lot more fun to play in England.
Yeah, I love watching it. It's great.
And you didn't. In Australia, you get hit twice. So you get hit when you get hit by the defence, and then you get hit when you hit the hard ground.
Yeah.
You know, and they hold you up, and then they gang tap you to the ground. So and then you got your shoulders, side of your head. But over there, you don't get that double impact. It's not the impact over there. So there seems to be more skill, even though the conditions, especially once they change to summer. Yeah. So some of the players that have come out of England are very, very. Back in the day, it was so skillful. I picked a team with my mates here. We had a fun time. We picked a team post 80s, the best team you could pick. So what I made, I said, okay, since you guys haven't played international, I'm going to pick a team, and I'm going to shout out to dinner whoever picks the closest team that I would pick. Okay. Of anyone post 80s, and I think I had 4 Englishmen in it. Yeah, and one guy picked 2 of the Englishmen, but so what we did, we just picked a position day by day. One day we picked the fullback right through.
Okay. Yeah. Did you have Martin O'Fire in there? He was a freak.
I did.
Of course you did. He's a freak.
He scored something like 540 tries.
He got 44 in his first season playing for Widnes. Like, that's mental. He got 10 in one game. That's easy. Like, 10 tries in a game. Like,
I did. I picked him. No one else picked him.
Ellery Hanley, in the centres, surely.
I had Ellery Hanley, but not in the centres.
Where'd you put him?
I had him at lock.
Okay, all right.
He's dangerous around the ruck. He is so dangerous, more so than out there. He was good out there, but he was a freak. He was so strong. No, and the guy who outed him, the 2 of them, were 2 of my favourite players. But I just went for Al. Yeah, the guys that missed out was 1, Hugh McGahn, and 2, Bradley Clyde.
Yeah,
Bradley Clyde was a freak.
Pretty unbelievable player. Great offload. Yeah, good player.
No, the other winger was Eric Grove Senior.
Oh wow, yeah.
He was a player of the 80s, early 80s. He was a monster.
Oh yeah, big time. He was in that 82, 83, 84 grand final run with the Eels.
Yep.
Yeah.
Parramatta. Yeah. Awesome team. That's right.
Yeah. Unreal. Yeah, man. His son wasn't too bad either. Not too bad at all. But not as good as his old man. Okay. Let's have a look. So, did you have any significant injuries or whatever during your career?
Look, I was pretty lucky through my career. I heard I've had more injuries since I've stopped actually. As a result, I had a couple of spinal fusions. So I always had a stiff neck, and I was knocked out a few times, but you just get up and play on. And I was never carried off the field, but I was knocked out a lot where I'd wake up. And actually I was knocked out really good in the 86 tour. We were playing, I think, a countryside, And there's a well-known hitman playing for the other side. He'd finished his career playing for Manly and West. And I passed the ball. I threw a cutout pass to Mark Elliott on the wing, and I was saying, I was just thinking, oh, wow. And as Mark Elliott was sprinting down the side, I thought, wow, what a good pass. I was thinking to myself, that was a good pass. And he was going off for a try, and then whack, I got hit from the side by Les Boyd.
Oh, your man.
He was a famous hitman. He got me with an elbow. And that started my neck problems. And I've had 4 spinal fusions since, on my neck. And so it continues to give me grief to today.
Okay. Well, it's the perfect time to ask you then. One of the last questions is, through your career, who were some of the players you loved to play against, or that you found were the ones you got up for? Who were those great players you loved going into battle against?
Well, it's probably the same players that you actually like to play with.
Okay.
Sometimes, because you just like playing with some of the players you played with. You just like to play against too, because you respect them so much that you just want to get over top of them. Yes, but one player I didn't like and was Benny Elias.
Right.
Yeah. And I used to like playing against him. I think he's responsible for that bent knuckle. From one particular scrum. But he was such a competitor, and he was such a good player. And I played with him from juniors too. Junior Kiwis, and then but I think Balmain we used to love. If you look at Newcastle Balmain history, when I was there, it was the most torrid, toughest game. We had players like Mark Sargent, Peter Johnson, Tony Butterfield, James Gould, and myself. They had players like Blocker Roach, Paul Seren, Elias, the 2 Elias brothers, Wayne Pearce.
Yeah,
and they were just tough side games, and it was a war of attrition in the forwards. And Canterbury, I used to like playing against Canterbury. Canterbury had a famed forward pack of the 80s. Remember, they had an era through the mid 80s.
They did.
Late 80s, where they had Paul Gunn, Peter Tunks, Gilmeister, Langmack, Steve Folkes. That's from the same forward pack. It's five Kangaroo internationals.
Crazy,
and then Mortimer out the back and Farah.
And
Terry Lamb. I used to love playing against Canterbury. I used to love the real hard games. Some the teams that would just run around, as I used to hate playing against those, just too quick, like they're the Broncos. They're just too quick. and they just shipped the ball. Canberra were they had an awesome side, with Ricky Stewart, Laurie Daly, obviously Meninga, and they could
Brent Todd.
Ricky Stewart could pass as like a 30 or 40 metre pass, and you're going and you were sprinting up to whack him, and the ball's gone. You left. But he's
Checker Ferguson sprinting down the field scoring.
Some great teams. I used to love playing against North Sydney at North Sydney Oval. And Mark's my best mate, but I used to love playing against North Sydney. It was such an iconic oval, North Sydney Oval, and there was a cricket pitch in the middle, and everyone used to say they used to play around it. Well, I used to play in it. I used to love tackling guys in the cricket pitch, down the cricket pitch. Awesome. But it was a good game. But in New Zealand, when I was playing against some of the clubs back then, it was awesome. So you had the Henry brothers.
Oh, yeah.
The Henry brothers, Eastern Suburbs. There were 5 brothers, and they were led by their 2 brothers, Fidu and Fadu, who both were Kiwis. And there was 5 guys, 5 in their pack, and man, it took some courage. I'm telling you, as a young player coming through, it took some courage. There was Waterside, but the 2 teams was Upper Hutt back then and Petone. And I think we were there was no Wainui, mate. I know Wainui's come on since Ken Laban went there with the Lomaxes and so many good players have come through Wainui now. But back in the day, playing for Randwick, I loved playing against them. And then it was always good to beat an Auckland side. In Auckland, which was, to be honest, was rare. But but when we got to beat them, they were always a benchmark in New Zealand Rugby League. But I always seemed to have some luck playing in Christchurch, and so on a final night, I remember playing for the rest of the world. I played in the rest of the world team.
You did too, actually.
At is it Addington Showgrounds?
Or that'd be right.
Or some showgrounds. Anyway, it was sideways sleet. It was freezing cold.
Yeah, and, happened to Christchurch.
It was freezing cold, and it was so cold that we're about halfway through the first half, and we're going into a scrum, and Mark Graham, him and I were in the second row, and he said, "Don't touch me, don't touch me." Oh, actually, no, sorry, we're playing against Great Britain, not playing for the rest of the world in this thing, playing against Great Britain, and it was the third and final game. And he said, "Don't touch me, I'm too cold. Just put your head in." So I put my head in and said, "Sammy, I'm done. This is the man that we all looked up to." He said, "I'm done. I can't do anything. Can't catch the ball. I'm gone. You got to bring us home." So he's walked off the field.
Oh my God!
Walked off the field with 20 minutes to go. Yeah, no worry, Mark. Yeah, I'll sort out for us. I'll do your tackles and do your runs. See ya.
I'm going to give him shit about that.
Ask him about
it. I'm going to. I got him on next week.
At the end of the game, we won the game. We managed to hold him out. And we've gone into the shower. And here's Sharko. He's still got all his gear on. He's under the shower, hot shower. He's got a durry. He's got a durry in his mouth that's bent over, and he's still shivering. If you sit under the shower for 20 minutes, can't believe
it. That's awesome. The hard Mark Graham couldn't handle Christchurch.
I couldn't handle the weather. You know, he's too much of he's too much of a fine athlete. You know, he carries probably 2% body fat, and he just couldn't handle the cold.
Oh, he was pretty chiseled back in the day. Yeah.
He said, get me out of this town. I want to go home.
Now, Carrie Clements wants to know, what are your memories of playing for the 1982 New Zealand University side? Because among your teammates in that side was the future New Zealand Rugby Football Union CEO Steve Chew.
Well, actually, I was picked in that side, and played for the universities in '86 too, the World Cup. But I never played because I went to police college. I was in police college.
Okay.
Yeah, so I actually never played in that game.
Okay.
So I was in police college 80 for the whole of '82, pretty much, and I played a few games, but it was only a club game, so I couldn't play any rep games here.
Okay, no worries.
I don't remember.
Right, let's finish with a few fun questions, mate. Who will win the NRL in 2024?
Newcastle Knights.
Newcastle. You know what? I actually think they're going to go all right. I reckon they're building really well. The last season they finished well, but I think they could go a little bit further this year. I do think.
Yeah, I just think they bought well, and they got a team. The Warriors are looking scary too, but
they're looking all right.
I'm wearing my heart on my sleeve here, and they're going to be there or thereabouts. It's going to be a hell of a competition, and I've been hanging out with the kickoff. But I'm sticking with my Knights. Oh, it's a first life member too.
Oh, really? Oh, nice.
Which was a big honour. So, you don't think much of it back then, just life membership. But when you look back and being on first, and the players that have gone before you, and obviously the club's going to be around forever and a day, to be the first life member, I thought, well, you must have done something right. And can I just say, I just want to add one thing. It's been a long time, and I'm getting a bit boring.
Go for gold.
So a special thing happened in Newcastle. A lot of people don't realise. So in 1989, we had this earthquake, and it wrecked the whole, as much as the damage it did in Newcastle. It devastated the inner city. We lived right on the edge of the city, so probably 2K from the inner city. There's a big club at the end of our street where 15 people died. So there was a whole lot of roadies. It was happening at 10:30 in the morning. So the hospital, the university was devastated, was flattened. All David Jones, the main street, all the main shops were all flattened. The town was cordoned off for 2 years. And, the BHP was the major employer of the town. Well, that closed.
Yeah.
So suddenly you've got economic hardship as well as financial hardship as well as just general living. You got no water, electricity. So in those days, we banded together as a group, and we'd only just kicked off playing this game in the ARL, and we said, right, we're going to be the ones we're going to be the people to lead the way out of this despair and destruction. Because what would happen was that every Tom, Dick, and Harry would find their $5 to go to the game. Every home game, we would pack out 30,000+ people.
Wow.
And they just lived from week to week for their footy. So the local newspaper, the Newcastle Herald, would sell 500% more newspapers of a Monday and that week if their footy team won.
Yep.
But that's what happened after the fifth year, those stats came in. But in the early years, it wasn't about winning. It was never about winning, because you don't need to be a genius to look at the opposition. Okay, well, they've got 5 international. These guys are just newbies. It was about putting your best foot forward and never giving up. So what we were a team. If you came underprepared mentally and physically, you're going to get your asses kicked in Newcastle. Yep. You might still win the game, but we're going to bash you.
Yeah.
So that was our mentality. And because Newcastle is a blue-collar working town, they loved it.
Yeah, I bet.
We're not going to beat Canberras, the Broncos, the Canterbury's, the Parramatters. Those 80 sides were just legendary,
Yeah.
But we're going to give them a massive dent and a massive scare. And the teams that became well known, that the team that played Newcastle could never back up and win the following week. They were just too busted. So there's a big picture in the Knights high performance centre of an arm dressed in a footy jumper going into a rubble and pulling all these other arms out of the rubble, which was given to the club and for the earthquake. But it was a big thing back then, the earthquake. And a lot of people really struggled because employment, I think unemployment was like 30-35%.
Wow, crazy.
It was incredible. Yeah, so it was tough times.
Yeah, that happened in New Zealand here in Christchurch, 2011. We're still buildings still are knocked down yet. There's Dero houses everywhere. There's the CBD's still got just absolutely munted buildings still standing that need to be pulled down, but they're getting there. It's devastating. Crazy. Yeah. Okay, so what's your favorite TV show?
My favorite TV show, there's a show coming up. So for all you Australians, actually, I believe the show is in New Zealand.
Okay. And
it's showing a couple of times a year. I can't actually say what the show is, but my son has got a leading part on it. It's shown here in Australia 4 nights a week. I believe it's shown in New Zealand 3 nights a week. So it's probably easy to guess what it is. So that's going to be my new favourite show. It's a bit of an Australian soapy.
Okay. All right. Okay. And if you were on death row, what would your final meal be?
Yeah, interesting. It would be probably a smorgasbord of New Zealand lamb.
Yep.
Yep. Blue cod.
Yeah, blue cod, nice.
Yep. probably bluff oysters.
Bluff oysters. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta have the seafood.
I'd say, yeah, and kumara, just to give it a bit of a vegetable.
Yeah, beautiful.
I'd say that'll probably do me.
Good Maori food. Love it.
Kiwi foods and kiwi fruit for dessert. The old Chinese gooseberry.
Put it on a pan and throw some ice cream.
Choice.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and going back in the day with me and letting us all hear all the brilliant stories and achievements of your career. You're an absolutely brilliant player. You know, you've achieved a lot in the game, and we all love you for it, mate. So, yeah, cheers for coming on. It's been wonderful.
Yeah, Dave. Look, thanks for having me. Look, I've truly been blessed, and I have so many good friends out there. I think every person I either tackled or was tackled by. I love you all. It's a great game, and everyone who's listening to this, you must be an awesome person yourself. So thank you. Thanks for all your listeners, and to all my family and whānau. I love you all.
Oh,
Kia kaha, kia maru.
Awesome, brother. Well, thank you everyone for watching. Get on all the social platforms. The Facebook group's going absolutely brilliantly. Make sure you like and subscribe and all of that crap on YouTube. And we'll see you all next time for Kickoff.
Full time.